Would you all join me in prayer as we prepare for the word preached? Speak to us, God, for we are listening. Speak to us, God, for we are waiting for your voice. Speak to us, God, in our hearts and all around. Tell us what can be, what can be. Amen. Do you all know about StoryCorps? Have you heard of StoryCorps? An independent nonprofit that shares select stories with the public through their weekly broadcasts, podcasts, animated shorts, and more. StoryCorps is committed to the idea that everyone has an important story to tell, and that all of those stories matter. Their mission is to help us believe in each other by illuminating the humanity and possibility in us all, one story at a time. On their website, they have this section dedicated to reflections on the following question: what does the phrase, listening is an act of love, what does that phrase mean to you? In response, one woman named Connie wrote this: some years ago, I was waiting at the bus stop when a young woman sat down on the bench next to me and asked when the bus would arrive. I said, "Which bus do you want?" She replied, "I don't know." I asked, "Where do you want to go?" She replied, "I don't know." And she began to cry. Then she told me she had argued with her husband. He had thrown her out of the house and she had no place to go. I began to tell her about resources available to women in her situation, but soon realized that she already knew everything I was telling her. So I listened. After a while, my bus arrived, but I waved it on so I could continue listening. When she had finished her story, she stood up and said, "Thank you. The hardest part of all of this is that nobody wants to listen." Sometimes the most loving thing we can offer isn't a solution, it's our attention. Before we can help someone, we have to hear them, really, truly hear them. And that's exactly what Jesus models for us in today's gospel. Did you catch that as we were reading it? These two men are sitting by the side of the road, both blind, calling out for help. The crowd wanted them to be quieter. The crowd assumes they know what's best. Be quiet, we want to hear Jesus. Sit down. But Jesus says, "Come here." The crowd sees a disruption. Jesus sees beloved children of God. Jesus wants them to be heard, so he calls to them and asks, "What do you want me to do for you?" This is a profound question at the moment because Jesus doesn't make any assumptions about their needs. He knows they're blind, but he doesn't let the crowd define them. He doesn't even let their condition define them. He honors their dignity and allows them to speak for themselves. Now, knowing these men were blind, they also likely didn't have jobs, were maybe outcast from their families, and looking disheveled. Jesus or the disciples could have easily handed over some food, some tunics to help fix the most apparent problems. But these men didn't express a desire for their material needs to be met. Instead, they dared to ask Jesus for something so personal, something that impacted their lives as a whole. Food and water and some clothing would have been great, but no, they wanted to see. And so Jesus, moved with compassion, touched their eyes, and they opened. Matthew's gospel is rife with these moments. Jesus not only sees, but hears the needs of the people and is moved with compassion to take action over and over and over again. That is where Christian service begins, after all, not with programs, but with compassion, compassion born from listening. Every meaningful ministry starts because someone paid attention long enough to hear another person's pain. And so we at Westmoreland have heard that pain and stepped up and into programs like Wheaton Woods Elementary food distribution, so others may eat, rise up for hunger, and more. And all of these are worthy and valuable causes, to be sure. And in the spirit of looking toward vital and faithful congregations, I say this with the utmost respect for this community, and none of those organizations are located in our neighborhood. One of the things that we know about vital churches is that they are rooted in their local community. They know their neighbors in their immediate vicinity. Now you might think, okay, but we're located in Bethesda, on the border of DC in a very wealthy area. There aren't any real needs here. We often think of needs as material needs: food, clean water, clothing. And those needs do exist for certain. But I want to shift our language, our mental model, to focus more broadly to consider life concerns. Not just needs, but life concerns. There are concerns that we all have. No matter our status, no matter our class, no matter our race, no matter our gender and sexuality, all of us have life concerns. And understanding these concerns can help us become better neighbors to our neighbors. A few years back, I was trained in a program called Mission Insight, which uses census and survey data to help churches understand the real concerns of the people in their neighborhood. I ran the numbers this week for a 1-mile radius around Westmoreland, just 1 mile. Because as soon as you get farther and farther from that, the greater, the less focused the needs become. So here's what I found in a 1-mile radius around Westmoreland. People in our neighborhood are really concerned about social and political discord. They have a fear of the future or the unknown. They may be wealthy, but there are day-to-day financial matters that are concerning to them. And the fourth most prevalent issue is health crises and illness. So what this looks like in more detailed terms means that people are increasingly concerned about caring for aging parents. Despite the wealth in our area, people are still anxious about the daily financial stuff of life, whether that's making ends meet or holding on to what they've built. Meanwhile, the social and political discord has left a record number of government employees without jobs or forced into early retirement. So let's picture that. If you can picture, down De La Carlia Drive or Duval or further down Mass Ave, behind these beautiful manicured homes are parents raising teenagers while wondering if their mom can still live alone. Families wondering when the next shutdown might cost them a job. You can't see those burdens from the sidewalk. And we might not really know any of that if we don't actually listen to our neighbors. The people walking by the blind men might not have known they were blind. They may have just mistaken them for filthy beggars on the street. But had they sat, like Connie, at the bus bench and listened, they would have learned that the key to helping them live a healthy, whole, and thriving life was no longer being blind. That change would help them unlock an entirely different life for themselves. It would help them find meaningful work, reconnect with their community, and finally feel like they belonged, like they weren't so alone in the world. And that's all our neighbors want too, to be truly known. And as followers of Jesus, as Westmorelanders, we know how to help people feel like they belong when they're in our building. And so now it's up to us to reach out to our neighbors, to our immediate neighbor, instead of rushing home. Maybe it means finally learning the name of the neighbor who you see walking their dog every morning. Maybe it means asking someone, "How are you really doing?" and waiting for the answer. Maybe it means missing your bus because someone needs to tell their story. Connie said the woman at the bus stop told her the hardest part of all of this is that nobody wants to listen. I wonder how many people within a 1-mile radius of this sanctuary could say the exact same thing. Friends, our church cannot solve every problem in our neighborhood. We can't address all of the life concerns, but we can become a people who listen. A people who ask, as Jesus asked, "What do you want me to do for you?" And when we listen long enough, we may discover that God has already placed us exactly where compassion can begin. May it be so. Amen.